gathered the unmistakable pattern, the regular features delineating a symmetrical, internal, subsurface structure of massive proportions. Dr. Shea.
You could call the year from August of '84 to August of '85 the year of the metal detector, because he took a metal detector over, went over the formation, and first of all, he got positive readings on his metal detector, but it showed readings in patterns. And the results with all three different types of metal detectors were consistent, and they did indeed give a pattern as they laid out strips. Now, they also got crosswise patterns, and this was first discovered with the metal detectors.
4 different types of metal detectors are used. All produce positive readings, translated here into visually observable features. No positive results occur in the readings taken outside the boat-shaped area. Dr. Shea.
If you had petrified wood in this formation, and the petrification takes place by a process of mineral elements flowing through the wood and depositing in them, then you would expect the trace readings that those minerals would give to follow the pattern of the decayed timbers and the petrified wood, petrification process. And so one possibility would be that this is a reflection of the petrification process of an original form, which would underlay this formation as it now stands.
When we did this metal detector evaluation of the boat formation, we covered the sides of the boat also, the area that had been left bare when the earth fell away during the earthquake, and the rib timber patterns and the keel or keelson patterns were very obvious there along the sides also. Now, another thing we did with these metal detectors, where we spotted high concentrations, say of iron, for example, we were able to collect a sample of 91% pure iron that showed preferential gradients under microscopic examination. And in our language, that meant that this had been hand-worked.
Their evidence is strong, but without excavating the site, a costly and time-consuming process, the group is concerned that they may not realistically be able to confirm their findings and prove to all the world the existence of a subterranean vessel.
Scientific testing is the key to dating. It's also essential to establishing the facts that will define the structure as a boat. Bringing experts to this location in eastern Turkey, however, is another matter. It's brimming with ethnic and national conflicts. Though they can't be certain of the motives, Ron and his party have been targeted for kidnapping and possible extermination by a group of terrorists notorious in the area. Despite this threat, the scientists and researchers invited on the expedition choose to continue on their mission, and the team is dispatched to the site.
Subsurface interface radar transmits electromagnetic pulses, or short wavelength electric energy bursts, into the ground. Echoes from these pulses bounce back and are measured by a receiver. The echo time can be translated into readings. These are graphically recorded on a continuous roll of paper, like you might see in the printout of an electrocardiogram. By this process, objects beneath the ground may be located and, to some degree, measured.
We got back to America, raised the money, and made the arrangements to get a subsurface interface radar system out to eastern Turkey. So in getting permits to investigate this area, or to excavate the area, the Turkish government have to consider what their neighbors will perceive this to be in, matters of the security of their borders.
In the summer of 1986, the Wyatt expedition assembles once again. They receive the necessary permits from the Turkish government and prepare to perform the radar scan. Everything is set up for this most critical scientific confirmation. Then, what could never have been predicted comes to pass, and they are stopped dead in their tracks.
Now, we had been informed that we were in some danger of terrorists attacking us or taking us hostage. And in the light of this, the Turkish government provided a group of 30 commandos that accompanied us out to the boat formation each day, and they would go out and hide themselves in the crevices, canyons and whatnot around the boat site. Now, what happened just took a matter of seconds, but to me it seemed like several minutes. Our Turkish commandos just rose up literally from the earth where they had been hiding and decimated these terrorists with automatic gunfire.
The thunder of gunfire rocks the walls of Doomsday Mountain, a seat of regional conflict for centuries. The Turkish commandos make short work of this violent challenge, leaving their adversaries silenced forever. The Wyatt expedition makes the Turkish headlines, but not in the way that they had sought.
This effectively stalled our attempts to do a radar scan on the boat, and of course it was sometime.
The radar technicians, special equipment, and support personnel included in this unsuccessful expedition make this setback not only frustrating, but costly. Not knowing whether his way is obstructed by fate or some other less obvious interference, Ron Wyatt must patiently endure. He realizes that there are competitors who would attempt to preempt his effort, and others with political and even religious reasons for trying to dissuade him from his quest. Nevertheless, in August of 1985, the Wyatt expedition receives the necessary government permits to perform the radar examinations. The results are staggering. Massive keelsons, deck timbers, open chambers, and other nautical configurations appear before their eyes, telling the story of what specialists believe to be the remains of an enormous, ancient, man-made ship.
Basically, the radar scans show the same thing that the metal detector scans did, only with more detail. They show there's a pattern. They show there's a pattern of linear lines, there's a pattern of cross lines, and there's a pattern of even distribution to these lines in both directions. Now, that's precisely what you would expect out of the remains of a ship-type object, because you would have a keel, you would have parallel lines, which would be keelsons, and you would have the transverse lines, which would be bulkheads and other reinforcing of the ship.
Immediately after the earthquake, it was to measure the depth of the deposit or the remains of the boat along the length of the boat. At the point where the deposit thickened, it was at that point that the upper decks began. And we found that this was a three-tiered or three-decked boat. Now, in 1985, 1986, and 87, we were able to measure this laterally also. This data, with the data that we got from the radar scan, allows us to know what the boat looked like and to be able to reproduce a model, scale model of that boat within very close tolerances of what it actually looked like. This is the best estimate of what Noah's Ark looked like. Now, the deck portion of the boat shows up very clearly on the radar scans, and we have reproduced that here in the deck portion of the model. Now, the boat itself is very unique internally as well as externally, and in this end we find the bracing to hold the hull out and to maintain its strength in a stormy sea. As you look up the boat here, you find that there's many chambers in here, which no doubt were the areas that the animals were kept in. Up near the front, we have a ramp system which allowed the animals and the people that occupied the boat to move from one level of the boat to the other.